This is another edition of The Spectre. I'm D.S. Yoxheimer, and I'm going to be talking a little bit about a very little known comic book called Carbon Night. And the reason I'm talking about it is I recently went to Centralia on Halloween, did a video up there, which a lot of my audio got drowned out by the wind when I was narrating it, so I apologize for that. Centralia has had a couple of, the Silent Hill film series is based on Centralia. And there's actually video games. I have a PlayStation, and I have a Wii game. This one's called Shattered Memories. It's fucking hard as hell to play, to beat. It's frustrating. It's not even a game. It's just a frustrating game. It's a really cool game, but it's frustrating. And also back in the 90s, an artist named Chris Ring, based out of Ellisburg, PA, which is near Centralia, released Carbon Night, this book, from his own independent studio called Lunar Studios back then. I remember when it came out, it was kind of like, I knew it wouldn't really go anywhere. I mean, it's hard to know in comics what's going to go anywhere. I really like the cover art and everything. He's got he's sort of rising out of the mine fire with, Carbon Night, with the powers of a mine fire that destroyed a whole fucking town. So, and his alter ego, his true identity or whatever is his name's, he's a fire chief named Kyle McKnight. And they're just very basic characters. It's a pretty, a fairly weak story. I only have 2 issues. I have this and the second issue I came across. And I have a lot of comic books, and there's actually 4 issues, and that's all the further it went. I don't know how widely distributed it was. I remember back in the 90s he was promoting it. The artist, Chris Ring, was promoting it pretty, trying to get it to the right people, and it didn't really take off. It was just a little black and white comic book. It wasn't one of those comic books like The Walking Dead, which was a little small-time comic book that blew up, and, I guess zombies are more, marketable than superheroes created from a mine fire. But I'm a little sketchy on the story because I have 2 issues of it, and I didn't really, because when I got these, they were, they're bagged and they have boards, and I didn't really want to fuck with them because I do think they're really cool. I like the art, and I like, I do appreciate like a small time comic book artist trying to create a character from a small town in our region, so I thought it was pretty cool. But again, kind of, especially back then, everything in the 90s, like Spawn was pretty popular back then, and basically, your Batman and your Supermans and the X-Men and all of that, and I think The Crow was pretty popular back then too, which was a small black and white comic book because of the movies. But yeah, this just didn't really. It was just a comic book in a sea of a lot of little indie comic books, and it didn't get a movie deal or anything like that. But it is, in a sense, it's probably the only other sort of pop culture representation of this, Centralia and the mine fire, other than the movies and the video games based on Centralia. And Silent Hill is mostly, it's just, having been to Centralia, it is a very haunting place, but it's a very sort of, and there's aspects of it that are very surreal because there is no one there except for the people who come to see it, who are more or less like tourists who like to go to haunted places and things like that and make YouTube videos at abandoned places. And there's been plenty of those made. So I thought I'd be really unique and make my own. So that's what I did. And but it's the highway is the most surreal part. That section of Highway 61 or that Route 61 where it's you don't see the steam and the smoke coming out from the cracks and things like that anymore. And there's some stacks there that have been there since the early days, or maybe the 70s and the early 80s, before they started tearing down the entire town, because they're trying to get everybody out of the town, because the state wants to reclaim it and retain the mining rights there, pretty much strip mine it or something eventually. That was the original, that seems to be the eventuality there. But there's a few people there still living. There's like 3 houses there, at the corner of just empty blocks of what was a small town. So it's very eerie. If you see the movie Silent Hill, that's a very exaggerated version of it. It's because you need scary ghosts and monsters and stuff to make a movie. But the movie, you could shoot a horror movie there very easily. It would be that you could make a great sort of found footage, or just a simple, not a found footage movie, because I'm not a big. I like some of them, but I like, but you could make a genuinely good, well crafted, low budget horror movie there, based on Centralia. That would be pretty cool. I think it could totally be done. I'm not sure how that would work. Maybe because of the liability, because it's sort of considered a dangerous area, because there's possible, ground collapse and that sort of thing. But getting back to this, I mean, the book is pretty cool. I think I did show the second copy. This is the second issue. It's got like a red backdrop, and the hero Carbonite is sort of flying across it. And apparently he has bullets pinging off of it, and he's fighting crime. I don't know why they're shooting the guy. He's just a fire. I don't know if he fell. I don't even know how he got his powers. He fell into a hole, or the ground collapsed, and he came up and he had powers. He would just die. But there was an incident where a kid, and it was really when it came to national attention, this kid fell, the ground collapsed, a kid fell, he grabbed onto a tree root or something, and his cousin pulled him back up. And you have to keep in mind, I mean, the fire is very hot down there. You could take a match in some areas, I think still, and just hold it to the ground, and it'll light the match up. That's how bad it is. So, and I think maybe perhaps someday these will get rediscovered. These books might, the artist might be able to get it licensed into an animated project, or maybe a movie, something bigger, TV series. It would be possibly, but the story, it's only, you only have like basically 4 books, issues of basically was a small mini series, and it wasn't, probably most people don't even know about it or ever even heard of it outside the state of Pennsylvania, unless you're a real comic book nerd and you came across it. But I do think the art, at least the cover art's pretty cool. I mean, it's just a simple black and white book. It's the art in it is, it's sort of like, it's professional, but it's not like really like the height of comic book art. It's something that someone who is young and is starting out and is really like putting a lot of their heart and soul into trying to create something, who hasn't honed. Well, I mean, he has honed his skills. I mean, it is good. I think it is good. I mean, I don't think I can necessarily put this out. I mean, I can draw and do that sort of stuff, but I mean, I'm not sure. I mean, especially back in the 90s, I couldn't have produced this. So I have to give him kudos on getting a book out, period. It's very hard to do that. It's very hard to self-publish. it is sort of interesting to look back on it and see that, you know, like in looking at books like, you know, The Walking Dead and seeing what that turned into, and you know, you could, you know, this could be the foundation for something like that, you know, for sort of a franchise for, you know, animated something or whatever, because there's a lot of, you know, streaming platforms now, and whatever, you know, they're always digging up ideas. They need something. And I mean, recently, like when I was, it's kind of unrelated, but I was watching like some of the trailers for the Justice League movie, and I read a review, and it kind of confirmed my suspicions that it fucking sucks, because it looks so, it's just all this, you know, it's to me, it's like they just sort of just threw all these characters together, because even like Wonder Woman was a good movie. I mean, when they're good, they're pretty good. I think because she is a good, Gal Gadot is a good Wonder Woman, and it's just because of, you know, she's a trained Israeli fucking soldier, and she's kind of exotic and cool, and that's why Ben Affleck they just kind of cast him because he was a name actor, and he is, you know, vaguely resembles what you think Bruce Wayne would look like, and they throw him in there. He's not a very interesting Batman. I mean, Batman versus Superman was, like, to me, kind of a Godzilla movie, and it was fun and everything, and whatever, and okay, well, we'll do better. But I thought by the end of the movie, it's like, you know, it's going to lead into a good Justice League movie, and it doesn't seem to be going in that direction. It just seems like a huge clusterfuck of a film, and it's just going to be a lot of, I mean, kids will like it, that's the thing, kids will like it, but I just think it's just going to be a huge shit fest. But if you ever come across these in like a comic book shop, I recommend picking them up. They might be valuable down the road, because they didn't really make too many of them. And that is my take on the Carbon Knight comic book series and the Silent Hill video game and film series. And if you like my videos, like them. If you want to subscribe, please subscribe. This is Spectre, and I am out.